Hi folks, all right, it is time for our weekly overview, and I think it is worth stating just right off the top of the bat that I have already done a new moon in Virgo video, and I have already done a monthly overview for the month of September. And it's important to establish that up front because when you have the first week of a month and the new moon occurs so early in the month, there's bound to be some overlap of content, but I'm also making sure that some of the content is appropriately specific to whatever it is that I'm talking about in those videos. And please know that I will be mindful and careful to not over duplicate content. And I'm only saying this because I'll be clear as I do the weekly overview what is covered where, so you can get a sense of that and take care of it. I know this sounds like, why are you qualifying something before you've even started? I'm just gonna leave that there so that then when I do it during the course of this video, it'll start to make sense. It's the first week of September, of course. I'm recording this on September the 2nd at 6:34 p.m. and in about 20 minutes time, the new moon in Virgo will occur. And as I said, there's already a video that talks about the new moon in Virgo. The new moon in Virgo inaugurates and starts on September 2nd Pacific time, all the way to October 2nd, a month from now, the month of Virgo. The word month being derived from the word moon. So that starts up. And shortly after the new moon in Virgo, Mars in Gemini squares Neptune in Pisces. And that happens today as well. The weekly overview that I did last week covered all the aspects through the end of today. So even though I'm doing this video today on September the 2nd, the Mars-Neptune square was covered in the weekly update, and it has also been covered in the new moon in Virgo video. And in a few hours, it is going to be exact. So when I think of the energy in this weekly overview that takes us from September 2nd all the way to September the 8th or 9th, the Mars-Neptune square is just about exact and is no longer an approaching aspect. So I'm not gonna cover it in this video. It's already been covered twice, and I've let you know where that is. So if you're really interested in, I think I also did another video last week, Venus opposed Neptune, Venus in Virgo opposed Neptune and Pisces, and trine Uranus and Taurus, and trine Pluto in Aquarius, Capricorn, in Capricorn essentially. And I did a separate video on that with the Mars-Neptune square included in that. So it's been covered. In a few hours, it is exact. We may feel the repercussions of it as we do when an aspect starts to separate, but it is no longer an approaching aspect. And so some of the intensity of its energy is going to, thankfully, start to fade. Now, let's take a look at the aspects that are going to be occurring this week. And I will state off the bat that these aspects are the same aspects that were talked about in the new moon in Virgo video, except I'm going to give it more of a this week focus. The reason for that is when we look at a new moon, not only do we look at the aspects that the new moon makes, we also look at the aspects, I look at the aspects that are within 5 degrees of becoming exact, made by other planets in the chart at the time of the new moon, because I feel that those aspects are encoded into the month created by that new moon. So that particular perspective is covered in the new moon in Virgo video. And I do want to say that yes, because the new moon is today and I'm looking at aspects within a 5-degree orb, the aspects that are talked about in that new moon video are the aspects that are going to occur during this week. They will have a slightly different focus, and you'll know this when I start to talk about the very first aspect in a certain amount of detail. And as I said, this is just gearing us up for the week to come. So it has a different focus than looking at the new moon, looking at sort of the month of Virgo and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, let's break down. Let me list the aspects that are occurring this week. So today we have the new moon in Virgo, followed by Mars squaring Neptune. Great. It's going to be behind us soon. And the new moon in Virgo, yes, is going to set up the month of Virgo that is ahead of us. Now, on September the 4th, 2 days from today, Venus, now in Libra, conjuncts the South Node in Libra. And on the same day, on the 4th, Mars enters the sign of Cancer. Then, on the 6th, 2 days after that, Mercury in Leo squares Uranus in Taurus for the 3rd time, because Mercury squared Uranus when it was direct the first time, retrograde in August, and direct again now. So for the 3rd and final time, he's going to square Uranus in Taurus. On the 7th is the aspect that I really do think is going to give this week its tone. On the 7th, Saturday, the Sun opposes Saturn. The Sun in Virgo opposes Saturn in Pisces. And on the 8th, Mercury enters Virgo. Mercury had entered Virgo in the end of July, early August, and for the first 4 degrees of Virgo when it went retrograde. And now between September 8th, or depending on where you are, September 9th and September the 11th, Mercury is going to cover those first 4 degrees of Virgo as it is direct and then continue to move forward. So the new moon in Virgo is opposite Saturn within a little over a 5-degree orb. And when it comes to both the month of September and the new moon in Virgo, the theme, I have to give you the summary. I know it's a summary I have discussed in the last few videos, but this summary I need to give you because for some of you, this might be the first of my videos that you're seeing. The month of September is so representative of the energy of the time. And you might say, well, isn't every month? Not this way. The personal planets, as they go through the sign of Virgo, are going to do 2 things. One of them related to opportunity and forward movement and where we want to go and where our opportunities lie and where we might feel drawn to go, where our heart's desires may lie. And the second set of aspects they make are more serious in nature, demanding that the Pisces part of the chart is stabilized. This is and has been the energy of our time since, gosh, you know, even as far as 2021, 2022, but it's been increasing since March 2023 when Saturn entered Pisces, and it's been increasing ever since. As I have mentioned to you, our forward movement, our sense of adventure, where our opportunities lie, where our heart's desires lie, what we might feel called and inspired to do, what we might be longing to do is symbolized by the transits that are occurring in the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini houses of our chart. I use the Western zodiac and I use the whole sign system, WHOLE. So the houses occupied by Aries, you can use whatever you like. This will still apply. Except if you're using sidereal, then the dates are going to be different. But the houses occupied by Aries, Taurus, and Gemini in your birth chart is what we are being called to move towards. And the house occupied by the sign of Pisces in our chart is what we're being asked to stabilize, either by structuring creative or spiritual plans, or by managing a fogginess, loss, deception, gaslighting, or an inability to structure and meet responsibilities related to the house occupied by the sign of Pisces in our chart. Because either we have been foggy, either we have had a hard time getting a certain amount of structure or know how to manage something related to that part of the chart, or there's been some other parties associated with the chart who have not been entirely clear. And of course, in Saturn entering Pisces in March 2023, the need to stabilize and lay a longer-term foundation related to the sign of Pisces is part of the agenda of our charts right now. And given the fact that the new moon in Virgo opposes Saturn, and as the month of September progresses, the Sun and then Mercury will get to a place where they oppose Saturn, of course, and eventually oppose Neptune, while trining and getting ready to trine Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. That creates that trine of opportunity during September. So very much the prevailing energy as we move through September is to balance and make sure we stand in the middle of the seesaw that asks us to move towards the opportunity symbolized by the North Node transit through Aries right now, and the North Node eclipse cycle that takes us all the way from April of 2023 to the end of the first week of June 2025. I have done a separate video about this timeline that we enter after the new moon today. This 9 or 10 month timeline, what I've been referring to as a birth canal for the last few months that we enter. So if you want more details on what that is, this is a weekly overview. There's a separate video that talks about it, and both the monthly overview and the new moon and Virgo video touch on it as well and describe it as well. So there's this idea of moving towards the North Node eclipses in Aries and releasing what we correspondingly need to with the South Node currently transiting Libra, which becomes relevant this week with the Venus South Node conjunction in a couple of days' time. So we are asked to pursue opportunities in that direction. We are definitely asked to look at or create or move towards opportunities that either come to us or we decide to create and move towards, related to the personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, transiting through Virgo, make by trining Uranus in Taurus and Pluto in Capricorn. The harmony between the Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus parts of your chart symbolize this portal of opportunity, and it will not surprise me if it's related to the North Node eclipses in Aries and South Node in Libra. And of course, the Gemini part of the chart hosts Jupiter, transiting right now, ending a 12-13-year cycle and starting a 12-13-year cycle. So we start off, and September has this overview of pursuing opportunities after the Mercury retrograde month of August, and enter a period of forward movement in September, October, and November, and enter a 10-month period of transformation that takes us to the end of the first week of June. And these opportunities are very much part of that. And as I've been saying, either opportunities come to you based on seeds you have been planting and actions you have been taking, or you just decide that you're done with the status quo and you start moving towards a desired direction. But at the same time, you're going to have to move towards stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart and finding the balance between achieving both the opportunity and making sure that the crisis or crises or lack of ability to manage dutifully or in a boundaried way affairs related to the house occupied by Pisces in your chart doesn't spill over and sabotage everything you're trying to do. Okay, so that is the broad framework that we're working with. The most important aspect that occurs is on Saturday. As this week progresses, the Sun, we have the new moon opposite Saturn, new moon in Virgo, opposite Saturn in Pisces. I've already explained from a new moon perspective what this means. Whatever opportunity this new moon sets up and whatever activities related to the Leo and Virgo part of the chart now start to gain momentum now that we have a new moon that is ruled by a direct Mercury, must not only move towards these opportunity-laden trines and all that is happening, but must also serve the stabilization of the Pisces part of the chart. And as this week progresses, this is really where the weekly overview and the weekly focus starts to now come into view. As this week progresses, a new moon in Virgo, a little more than 5 degrees away from opposing Saturn, the sun every day this week, as it heads towards Saturday, is going to oppose Saturn more and more and more and more until it becomes exact on Saturday. And we're going to have a full Saturn in the same way that when the sun opposes the moon, you have a full moon. As this week progresses, the sun is our solar, internal, intuitive, unmistakable awareness. As this week progresses, the primary focus of this week is going to be maintaining and gaining and not being in denial over what needs to be done and what Saturn is asking us to stabilize and how it is asking us to stabilize what needs to be stabilized in the Pisces part of the chart. This is where this weekly overview and emphasis starts to differ now from the monthly overview and the new moon video, because we're talking about this week. The sun opposing Saturn happens every year. We've survived it every year. The sun opposing Saturn when did the sun conjunct Saturn? Give me 1 second. This is one of those Avi does research while he's taping a video moments. It has to have been sometime in March of this year. Something related to the timing of that conjunction reaches a kind of a peak as this week progresses. Hold on, folks. Bottom line is, as this week progresses, you must welcome. You're not going to have the opportunity all the time. It's funny to talk about an opposition to Saturn, which is normally, and it will be this year, sobering, tense even, demanding, restrictive. February the 28th of this year, as you headed to the February of 28th of this year, and the sun and Saturn conjuncted. And there's something with that conjunction that reaches a kind of peak this week. And as you head, and as this week progresses, you are going to be asked, Saturn is going to have a standoff with the sun. So your internal and the sun and what you know unmistakably as the sun shines its spotlight in the Virgo part of the chart, no nook and cranny is left unlit. You'll see all the dust bunnies and spiders' webs and problems and opportunities, and the sun is doing its annual solar review and assessment of the Virgo part of your chart and creating a new moon, inaugurating a month of annual emphasis and action, even sometimes results, but action, beginnings, seed planting, the start of a new cycle, an annual cycle related to the Virgo house in your chart. As the sun, if we just isolate the sun, does this kind of, in your truest, it's not the mind, in the most unsullied part of yourself, that part of yourself that cannot be in denial, that part of yourself that you cannot kid, that part of yourself that truly has a sense of what needs to be done, your inner conscience, your intuition, you at a soul level is getting ready to oppose Saturn in a week's time. And as that progresses, you are invited to do your assessment of what you need to do and have in place. Mercury is direct, folks, to help Saturn stabilize the Pisces part of your chart. Now, it could be that there are certain communications that you really get more involved in or that start to peak. Mercury enters Virgo, as we established, on the 8th of September. And so the communication end of things may start to increase more after that date. And as you head to the full moon lunar eclipse on the 17th, that full moon lunar eclipse is conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So you are heading towards a full Neptune in 2 weeks' time. But as you head to it, Mercury by that time will be opposing Saturn. So whatever this growing awareness this week is, and it does not mean that you do not need to be in action. If you feel inspired to start taking the action to avail of the opportunities that the new moon in Virgo will bring related to the Virgo part of your chart, the Aries, Taurus, Gemini part of your chart, the Capricorn part of your chart with the trines that these planets in Virgo are going to be making, to remember as we get to the full moon lunar eclipse on the 17th, the sun will oppose Neptune. The full moon eclipse will be conjunct Neptune, but the sun will also be trining Pluto in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. So as you avail of and build towards the opportunity part of the trine, and Mercury a week after that, and remember last week, Venus had the opposition to Neptune in these trines. And I'm going to come back to Venus in a second. But be very clear that the primary aspect this week, because September is this month where we are balancing opportunities and taking action towards them, or moving towards our own goals, opportunity or no opportunity, because we're done with the status quo and we want to move towards our new reality. At the same time, and especially this week we have aspects that honor both the opportunity and the responsibility to the Pisces part of the chart. But if you were to say which is heavier this week, actually, if you were to say which is heavier over the next 2 weeks till the September 17th Pisces lunar eclipse, it's the Pisces part that is a bit heavier. So that is going to be a primary focus. You are going to feel, either because external activities demand it, because Saturn throws something into the mix that says, I need attention from you, human. Not so fast availing of your opportunities, the Virgo part, or you can, but remember they need to serve me, Saturn, as I stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. So the Virgo part of the chart is encouraging you to pursue a job opportunity, and the Pisces part of the chart has some financial obligation that needs to be met. You're welcome to pursue the job, but Saturn is going to be like, that's fine, you're doing this, but remember, whatever you're doing is also going to be a gateway or a way to serve, serve me. At the same time, Saturn could also throw something into the mix where you go, oh my God, not only do I need to pursue opportunities, but I've also got to now manage this curveball that Saturn has thrown at my feet or in my face, demanding that I take some action to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. In the best case scenario, the new moon has just occurred a minute ago. In the best case scenario, the new moon occurs and you create 2 lists of action items. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, or on Tuesday as you watch this, or whenever you do now, this is going to be, by the time this is posted, the new moon will have occurred. 2 lists of action items. What actions are you going to take to move in the direction that you want to and that you desire? Opportunities or no opportunities? Symbolized by the Aries, Taurus parts of your chart. The Gemini part of your chart will follow accordingly. And what is the relationship between those parts of the chart and whatever actions you're going to take in the Virgo part of the chart and the transformation that Pluto is trying to complete in the Capricorn part of the chart? Just 2 videos ago, I did an 8.5-minute video on Pluto coming in to complete this transformation that he's been making in the Capricorn part of your chart since 2008. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video so you can take that. And one action item, and if all of what I said confused you, one action item about how and what you're going to do to move in the direction that you want, and one list of action items. It does not have to be a massive list that you're never going to achieve. I'm just saying it's not one action item. And one list of action items that you're going to commit to start working on to actually start the process of stabilizing the Pisces part of your chart. And that sets the stage for you then for September. And if you proactively work in these directions, then you are already serving Saturn, and you are already proactively working with this aspect as it becomes exact on Saturday, where the Sun in Virgo shines its full light on Saturn in Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces looks directly at the Sun and says, do not pass go or get to the next degree without acknowledging what you need to do to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And if you don't become proactive in this regard and have your set of action items ready and start to either act on it right away, depending on how you feel, or wait till you have Mercury behind you to do it as well. You don't have to wait till Mercury comes. If you feel like there are actions you need to take, you can consider taking them. You know what happens? You can have the best laid plans. It'll be funny to see whether you can only get to communicating about them for some reason, because by the time Mercury gets into Virgo next week, it could just be that you find yourself busy enough with other things and you can't even get to taking communication related action to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart till next week, even though you have every intention of doing so. But if you can, and if it feels right, go for it. Because what you will do then is you'll prevent Saturn doing something typically restrictive to demand that you give it attention as you pursue other opportunities. So in that regard, it is a sober and a sobering week, and it is a week that demands, it's exciting. It's exciting to feel like you will be pursuing opportunities in September, but also be stabilizing a part of the chart that has needed stabilization. However daunting it seems, do not go into denial. Do not let something overwhelming keep you from at least getting clear on what needs to be done to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Acknowledging what needs to be done, acknowledging what the crisis is, and at least identifying what you need to do, however daunting, before you take a single step even. At least sets up a path forward that you can then act on step by step by step. The opposition between Sun and Saturn, the Sun and Saturn, will demand a dutiful, D-U-T-I-F-U-L approach, a structured approach, a methodical approach, a responsible approach towards whatever it is that Saturn is trying to build for you in terms of a strong, stable, truthful, reliable foundation in the Pisces part of your chart, where there has not likely been anything even remotely resembling structure and organization. There's probably been chaos in the Pisces part of the chart, growing since 2012 and peaking in 2016-17. And this week, as the Sun gets ready to oppose Saturn, you're not going to be able to ignore it. And there's something that started, was it February 28th that we said, when the Sun conjuncted Saturn? Whatever that date was that I mentioned earlier in the video. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. Whatever started then, whatever the conversation was between the Sun and Saturn that started then, Saturn is basically saying, now you're opposing me. What have you done? What has been happening in that first half of this cycle from our conjunction to this opposition? And will you please commit to sorting the stuff out that we discussed would need attention when we conjuncted Sun and Saturn on February 28th. I am still alive. The opportunity-related aspects during this week, the first of them is on Wednesday. Venus conjuncts the South Node. When Venus moves ahead of the Sun and Mercury, Venus is planting seeds. When Venus was going over Leo in July, she may have brought back opportunities during August that, because Mercury was retrograde, you may have been able to avail of or not, or may have caused confusion, or may have helped to give you a reality check about what was real and not real. You know, as I said, with this new moon in Virgo, as I said in both the September video and the new moon video, matters related to both the Leo and Virgo parts of the chart now get to move forward because Mercury is now direct. And we have a lunation and a new moon that is ruled by a direct Mercury. Slow Mercury, but a direct Mercury. When Venus right now is going through Libra, the Sun, the new moon, Mercury are going to spend their September, the bulk of September, in Virgo. Mercury's still in Leo for this week. Venus is in Libra. When she moves ahead of the personal planets, what she does is she plants seeds and creates opportunities. They may feel dormant. They may feel under the surface. They may not even feel noticeable to you. But you might find that you are the jobs that you apply to, the opportunities you might have for sales, financial, relationship opportunities that you pursue as a matter of course during September. You might note that they are actually related to Venus going over the house occupied by Libra in your birth chart. And as she starts this process, either because you, Venus, is also our sense of self-worth and what we value, either opportunities start to become manifest or show up, or you start to take action around the direction you want to move towards that involves releasing something in the Libra part of the chart so you can move towards the Aries part of the chart. When Venus moves ahead of the Sun and Mercury, it's not necessarily when things come back to you in a final or definitive way for either action, decision-making, or communication, or contracts, or signing, or sealing the deal. That is likely to happen as the Sun moves into Libra, the eclipse happens, Mercury moves into Libra later on at the end of this month, starting the end of September. But Venus right now in Libra is creating the opportunities. It's a little bit like if you're an actor. It's like going to auditions. Venus planting seeds. Oh, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity. And you're going to go, you're going to show up, you're going to do your best, you're going to avail of it, you're going to take advantage of it. What actually happens related to it will start to show up more once the Sun follows and once the new moon solar eclipse in Libra occurs on October the 2nd and once Mercury comes into there as well. And whatever opportunities Venus creates, whether they're dormant, whether they're recognizable, if you are a sculptor, it could be the galleries you're talking to and the places where you're going to display your work, or a painter, or, I'm just giving you examples of what that might feel like. If you're searching for jobs, interviews, postings, things you discover, if you are trying to increase sales and thinking of Venusian ways of keeping things moving forward. And with Venus getting ready to conjunct the South Node in 2 days' time, this has already been brewing for the past few days. You might find yourself preparing, as I said, to move in a desired direction, release something in the Libra part of the chart so you can move in the Aries part of the chart, a desired direction that you've been wanting to move towards since March, April of 2023, that has had a kind of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, has not gotten going, but either opportunities, as I said, show up in September that make you move in that direction, or you just have had enough and you're going to start to move in that direction and see if the universe gives you the support or not by the end of the first week of June to get to where it is that you want to do. Venus conjuncting the South Node is one of those opportunity-related aspects in a couple of days' time. Does something show up? Do you do something to start that process? And action is still going to be taken when it comes to Venus because she provides the opportunities. But harvesting the opportunity for results is likely going to happen once the Sun and Mercury follow. On the 4th, 2 days from now, Mars enters the sign of Cancer. This is an entirely separate video. This is my next video. But the reason why it's the next video is because Mars is going to enter Cancer, then enter Leo, but then he's going to retrograde in Leo. And rather than spend 45 days in Cancer and 45 days in Leo, which he would normally do, he's going to spend from September the 4th through June of next year in Cancer and Leo because of this retrograde. So it is time to do the Mars retrograde video. Yay, we've been waiting for it. But just remember, Mars enters Cancer. Wherever Mars goes at this stage of the game, as far as this week is concerned, wherever Mars goes, the bulk of our energy goes. The pursuit of goals, the defending of boundaries, and they can be linked. And with Mars, assertive, not aggressive. And be careful when it comes to rushing around and driving and, depending on which house Cancer, the sign of Cancer occupies in your birth chart. Mercury, direct for the 3rd time, squares Uranus. Mercury in Leo squares Uranus on September the 6th. Another one of these opportunity-laden aspects. Something clears. And you start to, again, this is one of those, either an opportunity comes up where through communication or travel or transacting or emails or something in writing, either you take something that is forward moving, honoring action taken or communication that occurs in the Leo part of your chart that is needed to move in a direction that is specific to you in the Taurus part of your chart, where Uranus is currently. Remember, the opportunity is between Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. That's the opportunity. That's the trine that is prevalent. The Sun is going to create that trine as we head to the eclipse on the 17th. Mercury is going to create that trine the week after. Venus created it last week. Jupiter conjuncted Uranus in Taurus on April the 20th of this year. And the effects of that conjunction, the change is actually going to happen all the way into May and June of next year. And it can be significant. So this Mercury having a communication with Uranus, direct, retrograde, direct, something about whatever has been brewing since July, may have been confusing in August, starts to get some sort of finality in terms of communication. Again, it could be you taking some sort of communication action, travel-related action, transactional action that allows you to move more authentically in an individual way, in following the breadcrumbs that are right for you to carve out your own path in the Taurus part of your chart, or it could be something that comes up that you respond to. The Sun opposes Saturn on the 7th, and on the 8th, Mercury enters Virgo. so that whatever it is that the new moon is creating, either bringing opportunities or developments that are unmistakable, even if they're subtle, related to the Virgo part of your chart, with a direct Mercury, start to become concretized through communications and transactions related to the Virgo part of your chart after the 8th of this month. Until the 11th, you're still, if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, you're still waiting for confirmation to see what happened while Mercury retrograde in August. This is the other thing that you are doing this week. You are waiting to see what happened with Mercury retrograde in August that changes or remains the same. So if something happened in August, you're waiting to see, now that Mercury is direct, whether details around it change or shift, or whether it actually was Mercury retrograde giving you the reality check and saying, this is what's real. This is the timeline you're going to need to adhere to. You're going to need to factor this and go back to the drawing board as you make your plans about how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be by the end of the first week of June. Somewhere you are looking to this week and even till September the 11th to confirm whether something that came up in August changes or shifts because it was not fully baked in August, or whether something that came up in August that was a sobering reality check doesn't change and remains, so that you have to factor it in as you move forward. So the most important transit this week, the Sun getting ready to oppose Saturn. It is the responsibility to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart that is going to have a lot of weight. It's just one aspect, but it is an important aspect. And respond to it. Respond to it. Respond to it. It is an opportunity to get real about what it is that you need to do and commit to doing it. Do you need to set boundaries? Do you need to come up with plans that are structured around how you're going to move towards artistic or spiritual goals related to the Pisces part of the chart the Sun is setting? You guys can tell. Is it you needing to take responsible actions now that you have Saturn support in Pisces around something that you just did not know how to handle before? Is it you needing to set parameters or boundaries around someone who was not truthful? Is it you having to set boundaries and parameters with yourself because you were the one who was playing your cards too close to the chest and was not being entirely truthful? Remember that when we get to the new full moon lunar eclipse on the 17th, something may have peaked or come to your attention the week before after July the 17th that has been building. There may have been a sense of suspension during August, but it's going to start to build again. It will not surprise me at all if it comes up again in the next 2 weeks as you head towards that September 17th eclipse. So even though we've got two aspects that are opportunity laden, Venus conjuncting the North Node and Mercury squaring Uranus, opposite opportunity laden. Either you are moving forward with something and committing to something, or something comes through as an opportunity that allows you to move in a desired direction. And there's only one in the responsibility side. That one, the Sun opposition Saturn, on the heels of the new moon that happens today, just happened. You're going to have to find that balance. Now, this is similar to last week, where the week after the new moon is relatively low in terms of aspects. And as we head to the full moon, the aspects are going to mount in intensity. And we'll cover that in next week's video. And as I said, if you want a larger, if you want to zoom out and you want to look at the month of September, you can look at the monthly overview. If you want to get a sense of the new moon in Virgo and the month of Virgo and these things that I'm talking about stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, you can look at the new moon video. If you want to look at, and this is important, I think, Pluto retrograding into Capricorn, there's a much shorter video, as I said I did. Take a look at that. Because the trine between Virgo and Pluto and Uranus, very alive during September. But this week, as I said, make 2 sets of action items. Opportunity or no opportunity, what is your plan? What are your action items? What do you need to do to get from where you are today to where you want to be? Likely related to the North Node eclipses in the Aries part of the chart, a desired direction since April 2023. That may very much be linked to your individual path related to the Taurus part of your chart as well. May very well be linked to all these, the endings and new beginnings that Jupiter is trying to create in the Gemini part of your chart. All of this goes together. It's one narrative. And if none of this makes sense to you because you don't know your chart, what, now that we have a new moon and Mercury direct, if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, you were probably clear and decisive about what you needed to do in August, and now you get to roll it out after this new moon in Virgo. If you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, you are still waiting this week to see what holds, what changes, what you go back to the drawing board with. Doesn't matter. You can still come up with where it is that you are going to be headed towards, opportunity or no opportunity, and what steps and actions you need to take. And you are not going to be attached to what the outcome is going to look like in terms of specific details, because you're going to let the universe inform you and co-create with you as you start to move down a path, which doors will open, which doors will close, and how you will get there. But the other list that you will create that is really imperative this week is, what are you going to do to stabilize the part of the chart that is occupied, the house in your chart that is occupied by the sign of Pisces? And if you don't know what that is, what feels chaotic in your life, what feels that it could sabotage everything, what feels like a crisis that you have not been able to get on top of? Do you need to structure some creative or spiritual plans? And most importantly, do you need to put some discipline around other people who have been deceptive, gaslighty, not entirely clear, have created a certain amount of loss related to the Pisces part of your chart? Or have you been somehow doing that? It all depends on where Pisces sits in your chart. And so put some discipline and structure and some plans around stabilizing those activities. As I told you, the weekly overview is different. It gives you an agenda for the week. It's just a different point of focus. And yes, the aspects are the same that we talked about in the New Moon and Pisces video, but it is a different focus. It's a more micro focus. The aspects we talked about do get encoded in the new moon in Virgo, and they will be a factor for the rest of the 4 weeks. But the exact aspects occur this week. I am still doing, till September 11th, as you know, 30-minute single area focus or single topic readings for $50. Those are still available. I'm also doing normal, regular readings, and if you want to know what those are like, or if you want prices, or if you want information and you want me to take a look at your birth chart, my email address is in the description box below. You can email me there. I can send you relevant information. If you found this video useful, please feel free to share it. Welcome to new subscribers. Thank you to existing subscribers and supporters of the channel. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, feel free to subscribe to it and click and hover over the bell icon next to the subscribe button, the wiggly bell on top, click on that, and you'll be notified when I do new videos. If you have subscribed, but you haven't, click that wiggly bell next to the, after you hover over the bell icon, you'll be notified when I do new videos. As I said, if you found the video useful, feel free to let relevant people know if you think the content will be useful. And by all means, feel free to like or comment on the video because it will give it greater circulation on YouTube. Have a great week, folks. This new moon that just occurred, and as I said, Mars does square Neptune, in a few minutes, in a few hours, in a couple of hours, but I've covered that. And It's going to be done. We have other things. We're now moving forward. September, October, till November. Hold on one second, because this is becoming ridiculous. September, October, November, the bulk of November, forward movement. This new moon starts to move you forward also on about a 9-month, 10-month journey all the way to the end of the first week of June towards the direction you want to move in. It's here. It's happened. There are opportunities to move in the direction you want, but this week, all eyes on Pisces with that Sun-Saturn opposition. Okay, more to follow. The next video, as I said, I'm going to now focus on Mars in Cancer and Leo in retrograde and direct that starts to, take us again into June of next year. Take care.